What's up, everybody? It's me, Johnny G, and welcome back to another Arknights episode. We're going to continue where we left off with the Path of Life event, and I've only got today and tomorrow, technically, to finish this up, to wrap this up. So, yeah, obviously, it's been a few days since I recorded the first part and released it. So, I haven't had a chance to actually play anymore on this account. So, we're going to wrap it up in 2 more episodes here, but this one here will be number 2. So, let's not delay any further. Let's jump right in and continue this mystery with Sir Ulpianus. Alrighty, here we go. And deploy beacons. Yeah, here we are. We're on BP-4. So, we've already made some good progress here, but we shall continue. See if I can remember the voices. Voice log number 21. Unknown language. Unknown time. Valeria has been back for half a month now, but I fear the package from Talos may never arrive. Those precious prototype technologies and biological specimens were lost, along with the civilian-grade environmental simulation unit I ordered. No notification, no incident report. The Cosmos simply slammed the door in our faces without warning. Poor Mother. She must endure the life pod a few days longer. This may be selfish, but I was the one to insist on bidding her farewell in a simulated environment. Until the moment she entered hibernation, she wanted to see her grandchildren. How could I tell her that grandchildren she envisioned simply do not exist? No doubt she still dwells in that glorious age where we journeyed among the stars. It's the only way she could see the continuing life. That continuing life doesn't just add to the pain. I chose Talos Union Industries products for their reliability. Mother's too sharp. If the simulation tech was even a generation older, she'd see right through it. I should have realized the risks of interstellar transport sooner. Valeria's leave is all used up. As she left, she was still talking about her grand mission, showing not a single sign of regret. I don't know if she was leaving her regrets behind, or never had any in the first place. One day, I too will sign my name on the consent form, and shut down Mother's life pod. What brings you here? I came to see you. You've just undergone embryo separation surgery. The Institute of Facility Management should have allowed you to take time off to rest. The surgery is as non-invasive as it gets, you know. There's no need to rest that long. I can't tell whether you care more about me or the little fellow in the incubation chamber, Magister Avitus. Of course I care about you. But any newborn in Aegir, as it is now, deserves attention as well. After he's born, you will choose to raise him. Will you choose to raise him personally, or give him to the Institute of Incubation? I don't think about that sort of thing. It's too far away, too distant. I went to the hospital before I came here. The hospital? Why? You're aware of the battle yesterday, yes? Surely you've seen the news? 2 fleets and over 1,000 legionnaires went into battle, but only 26 returned. The waterway program is at a turning point, and Militarium has endured its greatest sacrifice since its departure. There have also been quite a few abnormalities in the city as of late. What is it you're trying to say? Sea Patrol are looking for you, aren't they, Cassia? About that missing data scientists. Magister Avitus. You know, of all the documents in your collection, the one I like the most is the Death of Life, despite its lack of scholarly value. I only ever found that diary by accident. More than 300 years ago, 4 great researchers studying the prehistoric civilization made incredible discoveries in the Mantle ruins, bringing back countless precious technologies and data to Aegir. Compared to all those blueprints and theoretical papers, a transcript of voice-recorded diary is hardly worth anything. And so it gathered dust in the Academy of Sciences databases, until, thanks to your curiosity, it was deciphered and turned into a popular reading material. Merely the musings of an ordinary predecessor on his endless journey. But I loved the story of that predecessor. I enjoyed seeing reality through his eyes. how the connections between countless stars collapsed, how the trust between myriad races crumbled away. Goods were in short supply, technology was lost, philosophy and art fell silent. No matter how much we cope, and how much we hope, no matter how much hope and vision went into their great undertakings, they ultimately faded into silence, just like those nanomachines interred within the beacon tower. Did you empathize with his despair, Cassia? You've never shown a trace of that emotion, though. You even chose to have a child born into a world that could face ruin at any moment. That isn't the choice of someone who's lost all hope. I don't feel a shred of despair, really. That old-fashioned, dispirited, middle-aged man. It's hard to imagine how I could empathize with him at all. I simply appreciated how, by borrowing from his past experiences, you ingeniously tore apart the magnificent facade covering the eyes of today's Aegir. We must accept that the things and qualities we were once so proud of have no use now. Perhaps they have always been flawed, and this calamity merely exposed them. Once free of worry over survival, people will begin to consider value. We pray that our thoughts, our deeds, even our very existence will have value. Every one of Aegir's systems is designed around unearthing that value within people. However, value is fragile. You need only look at it from another angle and the mighty will become the tiny, the hideous, the beautiful. It's a pity that, whether through apathy or inertia, people tend to not change viewpoints they are familiar with. And so people live on their immutable value. Were those values to crumble away, they would crumble alongside them. Exactly. When did despair begin to blossom in you? Was it when Millenarium left the home territories? Or even earlier, after the passing of one close to you?
Cassia.
I'm merely grateful that you came to see me today. You reminded me that I still have things to do and time runs short.
Gladiia.
I'm surprised you allowed such pessimism to spread in your city, Clementia. The Death of Life. Prehistoric diary collated and published by Avitus. The year it was released, it proved to be incredibly popular among the citizens. They wanted a peek into an unfamiliar life, a thirst born from boredom and idiocy. What you just said would be enough to trigger controversy in any nation on land, Gladiia. A tiny piece that implies exhaustion and despair with every line. It tells the story of how a once glorious civilization hit a dead end far more vividly than any raw data. And in today's Aegir, can it really be considered an unfamiliar life? Aegir may be the prehistoric civilization's heir, but that does not require its subservience. We need not condone the rise of exhaustion and despair. Aegir stands unwavering due to its unbreakable rationality. It is our rationality that allows us to be aware of our possible destruction, perhaps even one of all humanity. Even those who have fallen, detestable as they are, at times make choices based on long-term examination and cautious reflection. You have personally executed no small number of cultists in your days in the legions. In the legion? Legions, okay. Just as you had to personally execute any hunters who ran wild. You and I are both burdened with heavy duties that we cannot rely on sentimentality. Was it this rationality that led you to hastily throw the hunters into the battle for the Waterway program, despite their recent return? Calcit, I invite the two of you to look at the beacon tower behind us. It was once an important component of the interstellar expedition our ancestors planned for. Within the tower lie countless nanomachines. The first Aegir city to break through the electron cloud would have seeded them throughout the sea of stars. They would self-proliferate, self-repair, and connect together into an ever-bright road network. With this, our fleets would have been able to jump freely between the stars. After the outbreak of the Seaborn Crisis, Aegir turns its eyes from the stars, and the bioenergy system requiring support from a dozen or so cities was cut off. The nanomachines were incompatible with other energy sources, so after losing their specialized source, they all died within that tower. But our colleagues from the Academy of Technology have helped alter this tower to serve us in a different manner, by lighting our paths. Since Millenarium left the home territories, it has been continuously making seaborne nests. Huge volumes of data are now compiled within that tower's control center. With the precise locations of the seaborne nests, our Class 4 weapons can destroy the primary nest in any targeted area of the ocean, driving away the occupying seaborne. This will clear a path of pure water leading back to the home territories, one that can support a waterway our main forces can pass through. Perhaps the seaborne will eventually regroup, but at the very least, their accumulated nutrients will rot away in their absence, and any re-established nests will bear no fruit. You are lecturing us on the core concept of the waterway program, Madam Consul. Yes, I am, Doctor. The Abyssal Hunters only managed to save 26 lives in yesterday's battle. The seaborne were clearly forewarned. Between the oceanic interior and the continental shelf, this city has been fighting them for far too long. They are now adapting to Class 3 weapons at a much faster rate. Nest 37's position is of particular import. It strangles the throat of the waterway. Abandoning it would mean stumbling at the final hurdle. This is our final battle before the waterway can be opened. We must gather all the force we can bear as part of the program. The Abyssal Hunters are no exception. Even if they have only just arrived home. Can Aegir ensure their safe return? New combat teams are being formed as we speak. They will confront the seaborne directly and create an opportunity for the hunters to enter the nest and deploy the beacon. But as you know, these are merely routine tactics. I am unable to offer a guarantee. In that case, I know what you are worried about. Be at ease. The hunters are responsible for their own safety, as well as the risks they face. As this is a joint decision by you two chief designers of warfare, I am unopposed. But I will not withdraw my objections. Gladiia? An unbecoming sentimentality bubbles up in Clementia's throat. She wants to convey her guilt, her remorse, her regret. She wants to give Gladiia one last hug, just like how she welcomed her back on her return. But she cannot. Gladiia, Advisor Blandis had made preparations for your organic regeneration surgery. You should make your own before the procedure. Donya, Irene, Jordy, you were gone for a whole day. I was investigating a few things with the Sea Patrol. I was also on a trip into the ocean. I didn't enjoy it very much, so don't ask. All right then. What about you? What have you been up to? It's not unusual to feel some discomfort. Cheer up, Jordy. This is your homeland. Judging by your expression, you've already studied Breogan's data? The young Aegir somehow nods his head while also shaking it. Okay, so that's kind of like one of those. I'm not 100% sure, but there seems to be no real relation between me and that great naval architect. What does that matter? Uncle Tiago hoped I'd leave Granfaro, leave Iberia, but he never told me where to go. I'm Aegir, so Aegir is where I should be. But people need some sort of concrete connection, even just a name or some notes to truly trace their family history. Avitus said that even though the Seaborne crisis has been raging for over 200 years, Aegir still has 100 or more cities comparable in size to Millenarium. If I'm not Breogan's descendant, then which city did my grandparents live in before they became islanders? Or was it one of the ones that's gone now? What kind of work did they do? How did they live? In the end, who were they? Sorry, you don't need to hear all this. You've just arrived here yourself, but you're already assisting the Sea Patrol with their investigation, while I'm just... You've got nerves of steel. I'm just an Iberian who can't do a thing here. Dr. Calcid is in charge of negotiations with the leader of this city, and the hunters have dived right back into their familiar battle, while my lantern and headcannon aren't especially helpful right now. Hand cannon. Aegir will permit a Liberi to look around its warships and ports, but will not allow her to join the legions and help fight against the Seaborne. I can't understand that sort of war. Down here in the depths, all I can do is investigate any abnormal activity within the city, in case it could jeopardize the cooperation between Iberia and the Aegir. Why are you telling me all this? My hometown was destroyed in a catastrophe, Jordy. I don't have many memories of it. The scripture I carry is the only connection with it I have left. It saved my life, and in doing so, became my guide, my faith. But when I saw the Inquisition's dungeons, climbed aboard the Saltiferan navies, witnessed my mentor's sacrifice, only then did I understand what faith was, accepted its weaknesses, found its meaning. You mean... I don't have nerves of steel, Jordy. I get lost and confused too. It's just that, more often than not, that confusion becomes a specific issue you have to resolve. One after another as quickly as you can. Arresting the cultists, taking back the lighthouse invaded by the tides, finding a lost warship out at sea, aiding an ally in investigating a missing data scientist. The connection you're looking for can be anything, whether it's a hometown or faith. Keep looking. You'll find it. It may not be quick or easy, but you'll find it.
Can I really do it?
Can you not? You helped Iberia relight its final lighthouse and saved 3 Abyssal Hunters. Didn't Laurentina tell you that it's enough to get a commendation from the consul herself? Whether it's as an Aegir or an Inquisition clerk, there are a lot of things you can do.
There's underflow. Secunda.
Prefecta! You're back! The city! But from the look on your face, I take it the investigation didn't go so well, did it? Lucilla. Forgive me. I need to report on my progress to Consul Clementia. I'm not at liberty to divulge any details. Actually, I was looking for you. There's something I should have remembered back when you were explaining the situation to us. Nothing major, honestly, and it might not even help, but I felt like I had to tell you. Go on.
Tulia.
You're the last researcher left. I'm really, really sorry. Can you give me one more hour? Colorpa Archaeospheridium, Hypnea fenestralis, Helimenia fimbriatus, Palmaria purpureus, Sargassium pinnata. There's not too many left. I'll finish cataloging them real quick. No need to rush, Tulia. I'm just here for a routine inspection. You know who I am? We were in the same batch before the transfer assessment by the Institute of Development Planning. You might not remember me, though. Are you preparing to transport these seaweeds? This doesn't violate any protocols, does it? Calm down. This building's handover procedures are already complete. If you leave the samples and cultivation equipment behind, you'll end up having to pack them away in bulk. Thanks for the warning. But with all these seaweeds, how could you possibly take them all away at once? Not now that it's close to land, Miliarium will be undergoing targeted reformation. The city won't have the space or the resources to breed seaweeds. Yeah, I know. I'll take as much as I can. I'll think of something, some way that won't inconvenience anyone. But the base by the volcano was already... That was once Aegir's biggest endangered plants reserve. I saw it get swallowed up by the seaborne. These primitive seaweeds are some of the simplest, yet most tenacious life forms in the entire ocean. Whether in bright shallow seas, the dark abyss, the flat sea floor, or cracks in the cliffs, they stretched out as best they can. And they're as old as the ocean itself. Pretty much this planet's living fossils. I'm no legionnaire, and I can't go fight the seaborne. These remaining seaweeds won't help us solve the seaborne problem either. But I can't let them wither away in here. You really love your work, huh, Tulia? Don't you? My little handy sent over a loading module. Sorry, but I can't stay and chat. Do you need any help? No thanks, I'm fine. When did that happen? The day before the Institute of Ecological Art relocated. I don't know what happened to her after that, and I don't know if she thinks Miliarium abandoned the volcanic power station and the plants reserve. But I can't imagine her doing anything bad because of it, because she's never abandoned anything herself. Tullia's residence had quite a few hydrophonic tanks, but they'd been empty for a while. What you just told me might actually be significant, Lucilla. But if I may be so bold, why do you care so much about her affairs? From what I've heard, you could hardly be considered friends. She has something I don't. Okay, I've said what I had to say. I'll be getting back to work now, Prefecta. There's just been more and more happening lately. The maintenance required for the city unit framework has multiplied several-fold, and I'm running out of ink as it is. Little handy. Prefecta Secunda, obtain data on the city of Miliarium from the Institute of Facility Management right away. Retrieve all locations suitable for enclosed hydroponics. Also, contact Irene. Tullia may have left other clues within the city. Ask her to meet me as soon as possible. Here we go. BP-4. Okay. What are we doing here? Let's,
This will keep you quiet. Moving to designated location.
Texas, you can take care of that one. How about we put
Anything
him
outside
there?
the plan, I'll judge for myself.
Got it.
Come a little closer, please. Whoop. Okay.
Your lives are mine to protect.
Okay. This one's not a bad stage, but it's nice to keep them blocked off there.
Thus,
Put him
I
here.
speak.
And that's going to charge this up,
Don't leave
which will be
bloodstains.
nice.
They're hard to clean.
This thing's a pain, though.
Bad luck.
Do one of these.
You ran into
Get him,
me.
Texas. Even though that does kind of affect her a little bit.
Moving to designated location. Got it. Shut up.
Wow, looks awfully dangerous. You call me out for this?
Arrived at designated position.
Morning star, the illumination of wisdom.
Poor little guy. It's
We'll
your
let them have
unlucky
a
day.
little bit of a field day here. There we go. Okay. So we
Awaiting
got
order.
that
You
lit
can't
up.
Stop me.
Speed this up a little bit.
You saw nothing. Need speed. to
Okay, pull
succeed.
her. Come on, Wis'adel, let's
See that
use
poor
this.
little guy.
Boom, boom,
It's your
boom,
unlucky
boom.
day. Let me create a diversion.
Got it. Cut them to pieces.
Come on.
Morning star, the illumination of wisdom.
Oh my. That's a wicked easy little slaughter there. I love it. I love it, baby. Reassessing. Biological safety of operating theater now at permitted levels. Surgery may begin at any time. Hunters, just as before, you will be kept in a deep sleep during the automated surgery. I will also be manually repairing your outdated internal auto-adaptive junctions. This room filled to the brim with specimens, and these lab tables are all rather familiar. How long has it been since we last laid down... No, wait, that's Specter. We're doing Specter's voice. This room has been filled to the brim with specimens, and these lab tables are all rather familiar. How long has it been since we last laid down in an environment? Such an environment. 5 years, Laurentina. I should really be waiting for your medulla replacement surgery to finish and your cell originium assimilation rate to stabilize before I handle any of your hunter-related issues. But time is short, and I have no choice but to restore you to stable condition to the best of my abilities. My apologies, Laurentina. Sentimental as always. Ah, right, as usual. A candle will be lit by your side, so our little mermaid won't look so pale while she sleeps. I have asked my staff to prepare it for you. I knew you'd remember. Please maintain a comfortable position and stay while the regen gel fills. This isn't so different from back then, except there's a lot less hunters now. Clear a trench of scum, close your eyes, listen to some advisor prattle on, then sink into the regen gel and take a nap. Once you wake up, all the nauseating smells left on your body will be gone without a trace. While you were in the adverse, fickle environments of the land for long periods without care, your bodies became extremely unstable. The auto-adaptive junction can monitor your seaborne genes, but 5 years of wear can render even the most precise instruments dull. Moreover, your immune systems have also fallen into disorder thanks to their long struggle against the seaborne genes. I will do my best to restore you all to peak condition, but anything lost during those 5 years is out of my hands. Okay. Gladiia, our reunion at the tribunal was less than cordial, so I would have liked for us to consider this our first meeting since your return. But you haven't said a word since we started. Is there anything else you need to tell us in regards to the surgery, Blandis? If not, then save it for after the procedure. We can discuss the changes we've felt over the past 5 years, as well as the changes you've felt. Please stay still. Anesthetic procedures will begin in 10 seconds. Well then, sweet dreams, hunters. Advisor Blandis, some things that have come up that need your reconfirmation. Did I not say that once the operating theater doors have closed, I would be mending the hunter's auto-adaptive junctions and must not be disturbed? Central Control has discovered some abnormalities. You should personally check them over, just to be safe. Hold on then. I'll get the door. The monitoring units in the dome were performing an emergency scan. We noticed a concentration of algal biosignatures here. Thanks for informing me. Not a problem. Since you're already participating in Tullia's case, there was no reason to cut you out part way. The place where the dome and the ground meet, this former experimental field for roadside coral, though it can compare to the specialized setups at the Institute of Ecological Art. It's much better for seaweed breeding than small-scale hydroponic tanks in a room. Whether it be in her nature or out of an ulterior motive, Tullia did not apply for authorization to use this space. She found it on her own, without telling anyone. Tullia... We can't say for sure if there is a church hideout here, or if Tullia is still within. In short, stay alert. Team 1 has already formed a defensive perimeter around the neighborhood, and will monitor the roads. Irene, go with Team 2. Enter via surface roads. As for the roads connecting the dome and the mezzanine, leave them to me. Got it. Move out. Who's there? Have you found something, Prefecta Secunda? Do you need reinforcements? Somebody blocks her path, or more precisely, prevents her from leaving. The one in her way lurks in the shadows formed by the angles of the buildings, and their entire body blending into the darkness save their eyes. Eyes that Secunda are all too familiar with. Stick to the plan. Secunda cuts her comms. Ulpianus! It's been a while, Magister. Magister. Interesting. Lapplandus, the weapons technology advisor for the Waterway program, and an expert in Class 4 weapon R&D, correct?
You're not from the lab.
No sudden moves. If the bristles of this Longbeard comb-tooth grass pierce your skin, you'll quickly fall into a tormented dream, where you'll sense your consciousness being slowly torn apart. The variety used for euthanasia has been bred to be milder. The wild ones are still plenty cruel. You may look half dead, but I know for a fact that you're the sort who really cares how they die.
Church of the Deep. Don't you dare touch the anesthetized hunters. I'm getting tongue-tied tonight. I'm not good with this.
What an odd fellow. Even as your life is threatened, you think of them first.
You may care for the hunters, but you've never trusted the Abyssal Hunter project itself. You question its rationale, its damage to the nature of humanity, and all the sacrifice it requires. You took part in it, but only so you could personally control all the risks entailed. You experienced its demise firsthand, saw the extensive project, interlinked it with so many others, come to a hasty end after an uncertain failure. So I doubt you'd want to send these survivors, freshly returned to Aegir, back onto the battlefield.
No, you don't understand. What I do is only to protect them from further harm.
So why not halt the procedure? Stop them from joining the battle for the Waterway program.
The surgery is fully automated. I can't just stop it. Sever the oxygen pipeline below the operating table, and it'll cut the procedure short. Don't think we don't know that. If you won't do it, we can do it for you.
After you finish handling the hunters, advisor, come take a walk with us. Explain the principles behind the Class 4 weapons, as well as how to shut them down.
Stop! If the operation is forcibly terminated, the hunters will be irreversibly harmed!
Scum!
The researcher stops in his tracks. He dares not step forward, yet dares not move back, for a lance has pierced his torso, his blood dripping down its shaft. Gladiia, if you do not wish me to ram this straight through your chest, let go of your hand.
She's like, nope.
What are you doing here?
Don't ask pointless questions, Secunda.
You're investigating Tullia too. Did you find anything?
She's simply an ordinary data scientist who got caught up in this. She discovered something she shouldn't have. Attempted to warn the authorities, but failed. You were too slow. What she encountered has nothing to do with her past. The battle outside the city, the abnormalities within, the Sea Patrol staying uninvolved with the Waterway program. You've noticed many oddities, yet at the same time your attention was so easily diverted.
You mean Cassia?
Precisely. You were once so focused and keen as well. So the day you decided to leave the Abyssal Hunter lab to join the Sea Patrol, I believed you had reflected upon yourself and chose a more suitable path. It seems that was not the only time you have allowed emotion to cloud your decisions.
Aside from your clothes, you haven't changed a bit in 5 years, especially not how you talk. Whether as a researcher or a hunter, you never refused to hear a student's questions, but would refuse to answer if you thought the question itself was wrong.
There are no worthless answers. There are worth lies in the questions. Questions are the most efficient means of tempering your thoughts, and your questions were always most pointed, Secunda.
Then there should be no fault with my original question. What are you doing here, Ulpianus? This is the scene of a Sea Patrol investigation. A fugitive Abyssal Hunter like you should be laying down his anchor and making clear his position. Gladiia and the others have proven an effective force in the battle for the Waterway program. Despite also surviving, you chose to return to Miliarium like this. That's more than enough grounds to attack you.
Their return will only make the situation more volatile. Even through Tullia's case, it's clear that the so-called Waterway program is riddled with issues. Aegir has learned nothing from the failure of the Abyssal Hunter project.
What are you going to do?
Prevent this nation from sliding into the abyss.
I'd say you're looking awfully like our enemy now, though.
Doubt me as you will, Secunda.
What's happening in there?
An ordinary Aegir doing all she can, but Aegir will no longer show her any respect.
Who are you? Irene! Ulpianus! Nobody responds. The hunter has already faded into the shadows.
What the? Why aren't you asleep?
Out he goes. I'm not the only one. Hello. I suggest moving the hand carrying that whatever grass away from the advisor's neck. You... Ah! A fair hand tightly grips the plant held by the researcher, its glistened tentacles struggling fiercely as they are nipped off one by one. I told you to move it away. The real researchers are in the instrument recycling room, probably injected with paralytics. They won't wake up for a while. I also took care of the goons in the corridor. Did you leave any alive for questioning? They won't die before the Sea Patrol takes them away, at least. Gladiia,
Laurentina, Skadi.
Landis stands at the center of the operating theater. The hunters step towards him. Over there, intruders lying flat on the ground. They do not lower their weapons. Not going to explain the trick you played with the regen gel, advisor? My dearest Blandis, just to be clear, we are no fortune tellers. Swordfish thought something was off from the start. We've undergone hundreds of surgeries. We've probably spent more time sleeping in gels than in our beds. You should know that even if the operation failed to restore us to our full potential, we would still have returned to the battlefield. As I told Ulpianus when he came to me, all I wanted was for the participants of this program to live like normal people again someday. I wished for my fellow people, who'd come from all walks of life, to have the chance to finally return to their former lives. Skadi could continue her life of wandering, hammering away at complex lighting arrays while taking pictures of the seabed nobody else would understand. Laurentina's skills could let her become the next shining star of the Institute of Physical Art. We could watch the graceful stars projected across the dome while she dances alongside the meteors in the Sophon Theatrum. Or perhaps we could find her works on the street corners of each and every city. Flavius, the seaweed breeding technician, Nona, the songwriter, Lunia, the exotic organism researcher, and Celsus, the youngest ever scientific exploration fleet commander. We both still remember the names of all these hunters, Gladiia. We both had our fill of sacrifice. This is far from the first time I've heard this little cliché of yours. Your feebleness and stupidity are already enough to earn you a death by my lance. Luckily for you, those church scum arrived at just the right time to save your hide. Are you saying their actions have coincidentally proven my innocence? That's not what I wanted, Gladiia. What I must do will not change. Your innocence is of little relevance. My point was that by choosing to expose themselves now, risking everything to stop us hunters from rejoining the battle, and even holding an advisor hostage, all it shows is how effective the deployment of the Waterway program has been. Blandis, Weapons Technology Advisor of the Waterway program, abandon your little tricks, complete our surgery, then return to your original post. Clementia's orders are that once Nest 37 has been successfully marked, the Class 4 weapons are to immediately strike against all nests by the Waterway. The church is grasping at straws, as one can surmise from what those dregs were talking about earlier. They will not stop. The Abyssal Hunter project no longer exists, Blandis. If sentimentality clouds your mind and renders you feeble, tear it out. Forget it. Gladiia, you're the same as ever. No, even stricter with yourself. What I ask of myself has no bearing here. Just yesterday, out of 2 entire fleets, we were only able to save 26 people from the seaborne encirclement. Before we entered this old lab, I had just learned that those 26 legionnaires had already applied for positions in the newly drawn army. War is never ending, and no soldier can tear themselves away from the battlefield. That's all it is, nothing more. Seaborne. Where dome and ground meet, an entire wall is covered in remodeled hydroponic tanks. Various species of seaweed grow wildly, and several large clusters have already begun to grow out of their tanks. Separated by a transparent wall, they face the gloomy seawater. A lone seaborne wanders about, like a lost spirit. Its tentacles are tightly wound around a transparent container, and the rest of its body shakes and sways as it drags itself toward the tanks. This clumsy posture, as though it's unaccustomed to its body. Are you... Tulia? Tulia. You can still speak. You still have your humanity. Tell me what happened to you. Left and returned. Data. Someone used... waterway signal. I told her, but she... Told who? Ocean. Fall into ocean. City left. You. They're still here. So far. Give her some space, Irene. The Seaborn cells have completely transformed her body. Her mind is near the point of no return. We've handled similar transformations. The stage in Seaborn degeneration is extremely unstable. It's far beyond the point where we can provide palliative care. You sure took your time. I ran into something. We've been misled. Someone deliberately engendered suspicions regarding the scientist's past and her motives for joining the Waterway program. It's led the investigation astray. You mean that woman from the Institute of Facility Management? That's right, Cassia. Once we're finished here, the Sea Patrol will inform the Institute of Facility Management and arrest her. Tulia noticed occasional abnormalities in the signaling system and told a friend, possibly Cassia. She exposed herself to the church. She'd been chased towards the fringes of the city where she fell into a drain and was carried out to sea by the city's circulatory system. Do you remember how we found pieces of biological tissue on our excursion outside? Crossing between two anchorage points without equipment is far beyond the limits of the human form. So in her desperation to return to the city, she ate that strange flesh. What's that she's holding? Plant nutrient fluid. Her consciousness should be gone by now. Don't tell me she returned to the city just for these seaweeds. These primitive seaweeds are some of the simplest yet most tenacious life forms in the entire ocean. Whether in bright shallow seas, the dark abyss, the flat sea floor, or cracks in the cliffs, they stretch out as best they can. And they're as old as the ocean itself. Pretty much this planet's living fossils. Seaborn suddenly stops, as though it has just noticed something. Its tentacles recklessly thrash about, and the transparent container tumbles from its grasp, spilling nutrient fluid all over the floor. Biomonitor readings increasing rapidly. Her transformation is accelerating. Why did she suddenly stop? Did something happen? Irene walks in front of the Seaborn. As she passes by the glass of the hydroponic tanks, she sees her own face. Yes, I believe she saw what she had become. A data scientist, yet also a woman as simple as the seaweeds she cultivates. She chose to stay, or perhaps knew that following the Institute of Ecological Art to another city would not have truly have helped these seaweeds as they gradually lose their place out in the wild ocean. But now she has become one of the pollutants threatening them herself. Irene closes her eyes. She never knew this Aegir woman who loved seaweeds. She's only ever seen her image in the little handy. And now, before their first meeting, she's already become the Seaborn she sees before her. Whether by rapier or hand cannon, she should end its life. I believe she can no longer answer our questions. It seems you're familiar with this sort of thing. I once heard a Seaborn play a broken song aboard a ship. I apologize for underestimating you earlier, Irene. The land and the sea are connected. You may not have experienced the front lines of the Seaborn conflict, but you've witnessed both what has changed and what has not, equal in their weight and cruelty. But for now, let me handle this. She is an Aegir. Irene sees Secunda walk past her side, stopping in front of the Seaborn. The expressionless Prefecta places her shield between the Seaborn and the wall covered in tanks, then raises her weapon at the once woman. Her journey ended, her home close at hand. This song. She chooses this place to sleep. The Seaborn collapses to the floor. The commander's shield blocks its spurting bodily fluids from entering the hydroponic tanks. The seaweeds sway, quietly respirating.
Your face just now.
Okay,
seems
then.
The expression
So
folds
they've
of the feathers
finally
rubbed
solved
together
that
is
mystery.
indeed True.
But there's still a lot going on here. And now Ulpianus is finally starting to show himself to some others. Something interesting is brewing, and I can smell it. Anyways, voice log number 33. Unknown language, unknown time. The Stargate's remodeling plan is an apparent success, and we have re-established a connection with Talos. A 2-year backlog of information has been flooding in, but it is bare of any good tidings. First, it was the observatory stations on the asteroid belt, then the entire planet system's interstellar hub. Finally, the cruise fleets orbiting hospitable planets also fell into silence. Even the ancient colonial fleet turned into a nomadic museum was not separated the same. Oh my, I cannot talk. My mind is everywhere tonight. Wow. Even the ancient colonial fleet turned into a nomadic museum was not spared the same fate. Along with these shocking revelations came similarly unexpected data left behind by Valeria. Her notes resembled her very being, long-winded and inexhaustible. However, she seemed to have spent her last days repeatedly poring over literature and history alongside the technical documents, studying how these great men died, what their last words and epitaphs were. Like a child on the day before their coming-of-age ceremony, rifling through their parents' wardrobe in a frantic search for attire dignified enough for an adult. Did she find her own life inadequate, insufficiently weighty? No, she left practically all that she had at the Stargate. If she had lived in the past, wouldn't her achievements have been inserted into the annals of history? But now it seemed nothing more than a narrow door opened between 2 tiny locked rooms in the dark. I fear it won't be long before the door is shut once more. In the end, the history of humanity has exceeded the bounds of humanity itself. Ha! Reading error occurred too. Run fault diagnostics. Do you need my help, Mr. Avitus? Oh no, I was merely observing this abandoned little handy. Abandoned? By who? Don't worry, that's not important. What brings you here, Geordie? I'm hoping to find something to do. We're clearly in dire straits, and I'm sure the city is full of problems and needs of solving. They just won't reveal themselves to me. Generally speaking, in that situation, you should go to the Institute of Development Planning for an assessment. However, if you were looking for me specifically, I'll try my best to help you out. You're a highly experienced and respected scholar, after all, and many in the city call you Magister. Magister? My last work was The Death of Life, a book with no educational value whatsoever. I read it, actually, although I couldn't understand much with so many cryptic words like Starship, Stargate. It seemed like from another world. Another world. Ha! You're right about that. But I find myself undeserving of the title of Magister. Oftentimes I find myself lost in confusion. Geordie, do you remember when I told you that blood ties were unimportant? I do, but I may have been a bit misleading. While we indeed care little for blood relations, relationships themselves are an excellent lead to follow. When one is lost, one ought to find a connection to reality, be it a life or an ideal, and seek a way out. Otherwise, you'll end up like me, sinking into an extended questioning value of your own existence. If I may be so bold, can I ask your own relationship is? Someone very close to me. How exactly? She shared the same thoughts and goals, and would enrich both my spirit and my ideas. I loved her as ardently as I loved Aegir, as well as everything we've done for it. I live a life surrounded by mountains of prehistoric material written into their strange script and incomprehensible grammar. I enjoyed the process of translating it into Aegirian text. That was how we met, and I still remember how she'd throw herself into her work. Her eyebrows seemed to dance whenever she talked about something of interest to her. And when I told her so, in those exact words, she actually went to the Institute of Physical Art to find out if her eyebrows could dance for real. What a strange form of art. Did they manage it? Strictly speaking, no. But some of their researchers were inspired to later develop the technology to make hair dance on its own. We've experienced the catastrophe that silenced the entire sea, and the Seaborn continue to threaten our existence, but we remain committed to exploring science, art, and our own vision from the future. Lava bridges that pump power from the planet's mantle, aquatic artery hubs that transform currents into fountains, artificial suns illuminating the depths of the oceanic abyss, and ecological bases filling the barren seafloor with life. We persist in transforming what the predecessors lost into mystical megastructures. We need only a spark to spur on countless inventions. 150 years is truly too short. 150 years? Yes, the average lifespan of an Aegir. Short, you say? The more dangerous the era, the more valuable our creations become. We firmly believed in living fulfilling lives, and would gladly have gone to our end without regrets as we passed down the fire of civilization. We planned an educational system where we believed was better than the Institute of Incubation. Once our child was born via incubator, we would raise them ourselves. They would possess a surging spirit and fresh ideologies, and become part of a more creative generation. It is unusual to raise children personally, but we had hoped to pass on the values we treasured from the fulfilling lives we'd lived. So what happened to her? Dead. Remember the predecessor mentioned in the Death of Life? He took shelter in an unknown refuge as he watched the sky pressing down on the earth every day. He already had a premonition of his own end. There was nothing he could do but calmly welcome its advent. But that's someone else's life, a life far too distant from ours. Is it, though? Are we not currently going through the same things? Give it 50 years, maybe 100, and even the vast ocean may no longer hold a single drop of pure water. The Seaborn have unwittingly overrun the ocean faster than we can create, devouring we were once proud of, turning survival into our own priority. The Seaborn have unwittingly overrun the ocean faster than we can create, devouring what we once were proud of, turning survival into our only priority. See, sometimes when they have those little missing words and stuff, it just kind of messes with the phrase, and it's just little typos. With as much dialogue as is in this game, it's happened so many times. We've seen that. And I never overlook it, but you can always kind of seem to figure out easily what word it is that's missing to help fill in the blank. It's just one of those things. They miss it here and there, but it's still so well written. You can piece it together and figure out what they're going for, but it is what it is. I watched as she was engulfed by despair. One day, she calmly gave up on our idea of raising our child ourselves. After all, everything we have inherited would only be lost in an era predestined to perish. "5 years ago, the Abyssal Hunters went to the lair of the firstborn, and no one returned alive. Soon after, she got sick and died in depression. Our son was successfully born in the incubator, but I sent him to the Institute of Incubation. This was also when I began questioning the meaning of my own existence. My apologies, Geordie. I was supposed to be providing your guidance, wasn't I? I've already severed my relationship with the real world, but perhaps you have someone or something you still have ties with. But I gave up chasing Breogan long ago. I can't waste even more time chasing an unreachable shadow. Maybe I could delve into the notes he left and learn how he developed his tech, not just because I might be his descendant, but because you also have talent and dreams in that field. You can try the beacon tower. You could try the beacon tower then. Breogan was involved in its reconstruction, so if you're familiar with his handiwork, perhaps you could help them out. Every Aegir leaves his own quirks in their writings, theories, or technologies. So sometimes all you need to sort out a trickier part is someone more familiar with the author. Thank you, Mr. Avitus. Advisor Blandis, are you all right? Of course. The cultists failed to stop me from performing the surgery on the Hunters. I'm asking about your physical condition. Thanks, Secunda. I see you're still... Given your strange aversion to medical aid, someone has to confirm you're all right. Although judging from your condition, I'm guessing I'm not the first to try sending you to the hospital. Perhaps the waterway program is too overwhelming. I'm something of a doctor myself, so I do know how to keep myself healthy. Healthy enough to not slow down the program anyway. You know, you should take a look at the plant cultists were using to kill people. It's difficult to imagine someone at the Institute of Ecological Art using it as paint. Well, seeing how you're not in any immediate danger, I'll need you to cooperate with my investigation. I saw Ulpianus recently. I see you have too. Only briefly, at the Sophon Theatrum. And you didn't report this. Catching a momentary glimpse of a familiar figure is hardly worth reporting. I'm not joking around, Advisor Blandis. The data scientist case has been confirmed to be a murder by the cultists, and it may be related to the assault on the lab. Ulpianus seemed to know the victim well, and openly expressed his distrust of Aegir. He's always been like that. More action than words, and ever unwilling to reveal his reasons. His unique style still doesn't explain all the doubts about him. I still need to check and see if he's linked to several church cases. Secunda, do you really lack any other leads or suspects more worthy of investigation? Or should I ask, is this obsession with Ulpianus merely your own whim? Gotta get more comfortable here. Secunda, I'm the one who rejected your application back then. What did you just say? I said it was me who rejected your application to volunteer to become an Abyssal Hunter. Ulpianus concurred, but I was the one who officially rejected you. Why? I saw your documents from the Institute of Development Planning. You'd written genetic research in the box asking for your aspirations. You only had to look at another file to see that becoming a hunter was one another of my... I used the wrong voice. You only had to look at another file to see that becoming a hunter was another of my aspirations. That was backwards anyways. I had to reread it. We considered you extremely talented, even among the participants of the Abyssal Hunter project. During our technical discussions, you were the only one to ask Ulpianus 10 questions in a row and get answers from all of them. The highest record for a freshman researcher. The early transformation techniques were dangerous and unreliable. We were always searching for a better integration method. It was ultimately your theories that advanced the program's technology. I considered it an honor back then, at least. But the program itself is nothing to be proud of, Secunda. The concept was born nearly 2 centuries ago.
A far cry from the average citizen's impression today. It was only 20-some years ago that Ulpianus made it into a reality. In the 100+ years before that, it was never afforded any systematic scrutiny or research, only endless debates. To exploit our countrymen and integrate the flesh of other species into ourselves to save humanity was tantamount to toppling the foundations of Aegir. But Ulpianus is a decisive man. He can abandon his research, ideals, emotions, and even his humanity without a shred of hesitation. The sole principle he abides by is to benefit Aegir. And perhaps he will save Aegir someday, but our country should not be founded upon boundless self-sacrifice. Ulpianus understands better than anyone that his very existence is actually this country's woe. His country's woe. And so, the Abyssal Hunters do not need a second Ulpianus. Aegir should not have a second Ulpianus. There should be no one in Aegir who wishes to become another. I could practically hear him saying that. I once joked to him about how much better it would be if you were my student instead. Perhaps you could continue the research he and I used to work on, the evolution of Aegir cells, or perhaps you'd start a new field entirely. You could have become one of the leading scientists of our time, with the opportunity to explore the primordial mysteries of all existence and lead us into the future. Blandis, the two of you had no right. I'm sorry, Secunda. Did you start reminiscing about the old days just to tell me I shouldn't bear a grudge against Ulpianus? I did it so you'd see him in a new light. Being too eager to capture him will do neither of you any good. Aren't there cultists ready and available for questioning? Don't forget your duties, Secunda. Where are they? The first floor, in a booth in the equipment administration room. Do you need me to show you the way? I know where it is. The Sea Patrol will take over the detainment of the criminals. I'm so sorry, but you can't go any further. We're currently... Wait, didn't I see you at the tribunal? I know who you are, the emissary from the land. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly are your duties on this diplomatic mission? Doctor? Interesting. The data scientist seemed to have completely transformed into a seaborn by the time she was found. It would be difficult to obtain any further information from her, other than the fact that the set of data seems related to the waterway and the beacons. I finished analyzing the contents. There are unusual data interactions between the beacon within the city and the ones deployed in the nests. The signals come from many spots within the city, and I have already inspected the port hub and any possible ships. The only remaining location is Lab C-22, one of the earliest Abyssal Hunter experimental research labs. You should be familiar with the place then. However, it is far livelier here than I can remember it ever being. Secunda was even deployed a garrison in the name of protecting Blandis. A hindrance. I'll help draw their attention if needed. I can manage the Sea Patrol for now. You should focus on the toughest target. You would be the doctor of Rhodes Island, yes? In the flesh. You say your institution helped diagnose and treat oropathy in our hunters, and now you hope to assist me with the organic regeneration surgery? That's exactly what I'm here for. Then you can leave with peace of mind. The church's assault here was just a minor episode, and the hunters have already returned to their hibernation. I'll be constantly monitoring their physical condition, so your gaze, no matter how vigilant it may be, will be of little use in their recovery. I see the hunters were telling the truth. You really have a terrible sense of humor. I see they have developed a deep friendship with you while wandering about on land. Insist all you want, it doesn't change the fact that you will be of no help during the operation. I mean no offense. This place was just recently raided, so please return to where you came from for your own safety. Blandis no longer pays you any attention, his gaze falling back onto the holographic projections before him. Through those squares, you can clearly see Gladiia,
Skadi, and Laurentina deep asleep in a transparent gel. You didn't manage to get a full grasp of Aegir's writing system before coming here. After days of fumbling your way through the city, you can still only recognize about half the symbols shown in the visuals, but you observe a more important phenomenon within them. Whenever Blandis selects an image, it would emit a faint beep. That is to say, every chosen image generates a corresponding beep on the monitoring unit. Could I help arrange the visual display? Of course, of course. I see you really want to stay. I won't force you to leave either. It seems you really do care for the hunters, and I like people like you. Little handy, the doctor is unfamiliar with the equipment in Aegir, so keep an eye on things. Understood. Doctor, as long as you don't touch anything you shouldn't, then... The corridor's monitoring unit just beeped. Someone's looking in here. Another beep for the experimental cabin in front, in the corner further ahead. There seems to be some sort of pattern. Someone in the control room is rapidly switching the order of the holograms back and forth. Doctor, what are you trying to tell me? This way, then. Ulpianus is being followed? The operation is complete, Doctor. Thank you for your fast and furious cooperation. The hunters will need another 10 minutes to awaken, but I guarantee the procedure went without a hitch. So if you could now leave. The hunters seem to be deep asleep. They were unable to get any proper rest on land, despite what I'm sure was the best possible accommodation from you and Rhodes Island. Even now, they've only just arrived home, yet now must rush back to the front lines. A single operation and hibernation session is far from enough to restore them to full strength. It sounds like you tried your best. I wouldn't say so. Even if I've fulfilled my duties, there is a fundamental difference between the two, after all. I believe you mentioned your expertise in the field of oropathy. Could you tell me what it's like to be a patient? They fight their fate for the rest of their lives. Fate? It means an inevitable direction or end. Interesting. The ancient sages once discussed the concept of fate, but it's been a long time since anyone has brought it up. You see, oropathy does not exist in the ocean, and most other diseases we managed to cure. We all chose our own paths in life, and the trajectory of our civilization is ours to define. For the longest time, we have forgotten what fate even is. Yet now, the ineradicable disease we've engraved into our hunter's blood cannot be dealt with medically. To borrow your concept, one may call such a problem fate. Each of the hunters held their own dreams, their own lives, but now they have no choice but to live alongside slaughter until the day they die themselves. I've tried many methods to bring them back from this dead end, all to no avail. Even now. Skadi's awake. We'll go with her. They seem to be in a hurry. I should get going too. It's been an honor to speak with you, Doctor. I hope you can take good care of them, if given the chance. BP-5, Lethal Fate. Ooh-wee. Okay.
Reap not what's sown by malice.
Anything outside the plan, I'll judge for myself.
Follow me! Rock and roll!
Okay, I'm gonna put her here.
Please, trust in me.
Ready to move. And what purpose do you think your sacrifice will serve?
Poof.
Solid
Put Pookie
position.
there. Put him
For
here.
them, the bell tolls.
put her there if I wanted to.
Wow, looks awfully dangerous. You call me out for this?
Multicellular
You'll
Herald.
be sleeping with this hunt has dragged on for too long.
Not her.
You can go do something else.
War. A word I've not heard
Oh
in a
no,
long,
this is not
long
good.
time.
13, 14, 15.
You saw nothing. I wasn't supposed to. I plant you into the soil to grow anew.
Okay, that one was a little tougher than I expected.
Ready to move. And what purpose do you think your sacrifice will serve?
Let's begin.
Just put her there to regain some points.
I already called dibs on the most lucrative real estate in hell, and you guys all get a share. Rest easy.
Awaiting orders. Got it.
You can go do something else.
Period.
There we go. We can let him have fun. All right. Okay, it's just these two. We're good. We're good.
Still mulling things
We're gonna let
over.
you
The
have
emotion is meaningless
fun.
here.
Boom. Okay. We had that little problem in the right side there, but it worked out fine afterwards. We're all right. We got it. Get a little drink. Sea Patrol. Here to interrogate me. Interrogate. Ha! I never thought I'd have anything to do with that word. You should have thought of that when you intruded on the lab. What about before then? What makes you and I so different? Why interrogate me? What have I done to deserve being questioned? At times like these, I feel like our methods are too gentle. According to our envoy from Iberia, they're more than happy to incorporate punishment into the process. So if you're finished talking nonsense, state your identity. I'm a former roadside coral breeder. Motive? You ever paid close attention to the coral by the road, patroller? We hoped every cluster on every street would take on a different form, a color, even different capabilities. Transport tubes pass through the cavity-filled cluster on the east side of the softened theatrum, and under the glimmering tubes, the polyps glimmer back. A patchwork of dots of light, like a nebula in miniature. Then, there's the ones around the port. As it happens, I have been paying close attention to some roadside coral recently, specifically the ones growing in your experimental field, where an innocent data scientist died. Her dreams, her obsession, her love for her seaweeds were as beautiful as the coral you speak of. But you murdered her. You asked a good question earlier. What makes you and her so different? Why are you still alive? What did she do to deserve death? She found... Found what? Speak up! Or are you implying I should be asking Cassia this question? You... What is the church planning against the waterway program? Will you be attacking the beacon or the weapons? Speak! Church this, cultist that. I'm still not used to being called names like that. You sure they're not just convenient excuses for you to arrest people? This so-called church and its cultists, what part of them is holy exactly? I don't worship any kind of imaginary entity. I just agree with how Cassia sees things. From the despair engulfing Aegir, she can see this nation's fragile nature. People place too much importance on the value of things, but are unwilling to recognize how fickle these values really are. They become worshippers at their altar. But now those values are crumbling away before Aegir falls completely into despair. Someone must sound the alarm. Peril! You're just trying to loosen my lips. You won't get another word out of me. If you're feeling impatient, go ahead, scan my brainwaves. You won't get anything out of that either. Questioning you is the last respect I'll give you as a human being, scumbag. Maybe you believe yourself innocent and your actions free of conspiracy, but you will tell me everything I want to know. Now speak. Ooh, I wouldn't want to be interrogated by her. I've got so much dead skin on my thumb, it's bothering me. My bad.
Captain, it's almost time for us to leave, Skadi. I know it's urgent. The front line is barely holding a ground against the Seaborn. The loss of 2 entire fleets is really hitting us hard now. According to their most recent missive, Legions 8 and 10 failed to regroup into formation, and they are now mired in a bitter struggle. If the beacon cannot be deployed at the designated position within the nest and the deadlock continues, it will mean the failure of the waterway program. Understood. The Legion fleets are about to launch an offensive across the entire front, at all costs, all to attract the Seaborn's attention. As for us, squeeze through the battlefield, infiltrate the nest, and deploy the beacon. Correct. How would you rate your current condition, Skadi? I got some good sleep, at least. My first dreamless sleep since our last campaign. The situation in the city is getting more restive. Do you know where the doctor has gone? I know you want me to keep the peace and protect the doctor, Captain. You want me to stay. To be honest, I am conflicted. Cleansing the sea of its dregs is our duty, but I am also responsible for your safety. Have there been any signs of Isharmla stirring since we returned to the sea? If it has, it's been real quiet. If it speaks up, I'll shut it up. Actually, I've got something to say to you, Captain. We've never been this cautious in our work before. We've had our ways of handling this sort of thing. If the Church is God, the one the scum call Isharmla, really is inside me, then if I ever go out of control, I want you to execute me on the spot. Simple as that. My heart's right here. I trust you won't miss. Skadi. I'm not finished. If you or Shark start to fall under their influence in battle before I do, I won't hesitate either. What I was going to say is that, with war close at hand, I can imagine nothing more reassuring to hear. Let's go. Miss Laurentina. No need for that dreary honorific, little bird. We're not strangers, are we? Laurentina. Considering how long we've been in this city, I'm surprised this is the first time we've run into one another. This is sad. I've always wanted to take our brave little warrior out on a real hunt in the depths. Sadly, the nest we're headed to is far and too deep. No way to bring you along. It's alright. Even if I had the option, I'd stay in Miliarium regardless. Oh? There's been a lot happening in the city lately. The first time I wore deepwater equipment and entered the ocean, I was immediately knocked about by the current. I hate to admit it, but I'd be dead weight out there. No need to talk like that. The first time is always rough. Anyway, I can do a lot more in the city than in that nest. And once you've completed your mission and Aegir's weapon systems start cleansing the area, I'll have to return to St. Carmen and make an urgent report on why the sea surface has changed. Ah, so you meant we were to be parted once more. That's right. I'd be offering you all farewell gifts, but I wasn't expecting this before we left for Miliarium, so I have nothing to give. Don't worry about it. We'll meet again. While we won't be needing to drag you from the sea, half drowned this time, I have a feeling our next reunion will be unforgettable in its own right. Oh, look! Skadi and Gladiia are coming. Take care of yourself, Laurentina. Finished with your chat? Yes. It's past time we left, Hunters. Doctor. Seems you got the evidence you wanted. Yes, you've been of great assistance. So what's the verdict? As previously mentioned, there are unusual data interactions between the beacon within the city and the ones deployed in the nests. It seems the bulk of the work was handled by Lab C-22, namely the facility we just infiltrated. While I do not fully understand the principles behind the beacon system, or the Class 4 weapons, the contents of these interactions can still be inferred. The coordination between the beacons and the weapons has been altered. As I surmised, the waterway program has been infiltrated at the highest level. Did you doubt the program from the start? Correct. Even before it was conceived, I had my doubts about Aegir. From where? That decisive campaign. You were meant to kill the Firstborn.
but you lost contact with your team. Skadi was left to take the burden. So you already know. Skadi trusts you more than expected. I put it together from what she said. My dereliction was due to a moment of distraction. In a cave, or rather, cavity closest to his charmless core, I noticed something that should not be there. Food piles of meat, turbid mucus. At first, I assumed that they were nodules of its body. Then I saw clearly the measuring scales and flow channels around them. A corroded water flow meter. One from Aegir, a design hundreds of years old. One that now only exists in museums. Hundreds of years old? Based on the degradation, it had sat within a charmless body for 2 centuries. It had been told that no other Aegir had ever managed to reach the Firstborn before us. Firstborn. That is to say, before Aegir was even aware of it, its people had secretly come into contact with the Firstborn. The undercurrents beneath tranquil Aegir are more turbulent than anyone could imagine. I also found something odd while you were out. As soon as the hunters awoke, they left. They were being used to break the deadlock at the front. I can imagine the mission they've been assigned. Bypass the front lines, advance to the nest, and deploy the beacon. First support, now the linchpin. It's too quick. The advisor seemed more anxious than them. He left the lab at the first opportunity. Blandus. And I fear we too must act as quickly as possible. If the coordination between the beacons and weapons has been tampered with, then there's only one place to go. The core of the waterway program. The beacon launcher. As for you, I'll go see the one who gave the order. Consul Clementia.
Good. I had no idea you were
That's
so
it for
clever and learned.
BP-5.
I was going to
Let's
ask
do
you how to
BP-6.
make Maya tongue, but with such a good head on your
We'll do
shoulders,
BP-6,
I'm feeling
and there
little
is
bad
a
now.
story bit after it. So, BPST-2. So, we'll do that, and then we'll wrap up this episode here. Because then it'll be BP-7, 8, 9, and then the ending story in the final episode. Ugh, what a stench. All these years and still don't make better camouflage cream. It wouldn't do any harm for us to at least smell different from the Seaborn, you know? Don't move so much, Shark. It'll only make the smell stronger. When you smell this much like a Seaborn, I might hack at you on instinct. That's a little disturbing and scary that she would openly admit to accidentally wanting to do that. Anyways. The whole plateau is trembling. Those giant worm-like Seaborn are tunneling through the rock beneath us. Stay concealed. Uh-oh. Look at those numbers. Honestly, between the currents and the Seaborn, who's carrying who? They're flooding towards the front line. I can't imagine. Can't imagine that the soldiers there are fighting through. Snap out of it, Skadi. You'll crush your hilt doing that. We mourn those on the front best by completing our mission. Excuse me. Thanks to the Legion's fleets containing the Seaborn swarm, we were able to slip in and plant this beacon deep in the nest. Even a single plant could alert the Seaborn to us. If it happens to be assimilated, there is no room for negligence on the path forward. The great bleached coral will cover us as we dive for the depths of the rift. Yes, Captain. Jordy, right? Fast learner. A lot of students come here to work on experience. With all that operation protocol, it never takes more than a day for them to slip up. You, though, picked it up just by watching for a little while. You done this before? Just a bit. I've done some work in an Iberian lighthouse. The beacons share a few principles with it, here and there. I see. So you're into engineering. Explains a lot. I've worked longest as a caregiver, though. Caregiver? What kind of job's that? Huh? Watching over the sick and elderly, taking care of their daily needs, sorting out all the little things for them. Gotcha, so it's like slapping little handy modules 153 and 274 in at the same time. But the little handy's impersonal, right? That's correct. You look as taut as a wire, Geordie. This isn't an exam on Aegir knowledge, general knowledge.
I just want to ask, if the little handy has no personality, how is it supposed to meet the emotional needs of its patients? To care for people is to meet them in their weakest, most vulnerable moments, after all. I'd say physical frailty doesn't particularly inspire emotional needs in us. And if we're headed for the grave, even with illness, we don't feel especially vulnerable either. We do let the old and sick request some final company before their euthanasia, though. Usually a leading philosopher will come in. Scholars from whatever field, in general, really. I know nothing about philosophy. I just talk to them about the most banal things. Food, flowers, sunshine, and so on. But for some reason, they're always so happy to listen. You're a great guy, Geordie. That shows how keen you are at grasping people's moods. No promises, but something tells me you'd shine in the Institute of Development Planning, or Institute of Incubation, too. Could I? Regardless, thank you so much. I finished resetting the storage facilities here. Wonderful work. Now, Wait. Did you just see something zip past the hologram? What? Ulpianus! Intruder! Knockout. Who? Young man, you saw none of this. You have no reason to complicate things. Wait! Shark's saw will be too loud. Skadi, you open the way. Cut through this cluster as quietly as you can. All right. Ooh. For but an instant, the invading hunters are bathed in vivid color and indistinct light. That which the Iberians call Nethersea brand creeps across the coral layers, the spawn of the many lilting in their craggy nests. Eggs are swept from this cliff face as the currents pass, metamorphosing as they spiral down, indescribable folds yet unfolding until a seaborne form emerges. That's right, we do have to deal with a little bit of that stuff, the Nethersea brand here. For like the next two, I believe. Or at least this one. I think. Holding it at bay. And that was something that was in Saltifera Navis. The newborns silently gather together, their trembling bodies echoing all throughout the nest, intertwining palps and feelers. They sweep each other off for far away. They just keep on leaving the nest, rushing for the front line. Wait, don't you think something's off? How did that one turn into a whole bunch out of nowhere? What is it doing? Multiplying? Splitting? I've had this gnawing feeling ever since we bailed out the fleet. Swordfish, have these assholes evolved even more? The Seaborn are forever evolving. Skadi, can you remember the first Seaborn you ever killed? Not really. Just that it had a lot of gross tentacles. That's what I mean. Tentacles, stingers, chitinous shells. We could still discern the organs, identify their functions at a glance. Prior to this, the Seaborn's only skill was to hijack whatever evolutionary progress other species had accrued over the epochs. But now we've got these things. I can't begin to tell what their organs are. If I didn't know any better, I might not even think to connect them to the fodder we were slaughtering just 3 months ago. Yeah, to the father, the Seaborn father. Whatever. Anyways. The Seaborn's needs have outgrown their evolutionary advancements. They've begun seeking their own answers, which means their evolutionary course now transcends our knowledge. If we are unable to gloss their physical recomposition, unable to discern their organs, unique functions, unable to predict the direction they will evolve, we won't know how to kill them. We could fetch a specimen for Advisor Blandis while we evacuate. Still, the mission takes priority for now. Skadi, you and I will find where the wall hasn't yet been branded. Embed the beacon there and activate it. Laurentina, spot our surroundings. We withdraw as soon as it's planted. Without delay. Consul Clementia. Greetings, Doctor of Rhodes Island, and well met in Miliarium. At long last, our first official conversation. Well, Calcit's the official Iberian envoy. Save your modesty. Dr. Calcit's awe-inspiring knowledge transcends the boundaries of space and time. So for her to be keeping you up her sleeves, the depths you hide must be deeper still. Whether you come to me in doubt or with conclusions of your own to share, I'm prepared to listen. You sent the hunters into a literal nest of danger. Much like Dr. Calcit, you have misgivings about this decision. Yet I had no choice but to order them to meet death in the eye once more. My hand was forced. Once they can break our present impasse... Rational. Maybe a little too rational? The legions are deployed to capacity. The Abyssal Hunters must assume combat duties, even having recently returned to Aegir. You suspect the situation was deliberately engineered. I gather you returned from the city with findings of your own. The beacon beepin', wow. See what I mean, guys? This is one of those nights. I apologize. I hope this isn't too bad for you, but I'm trying. The beacon weapon link was tampered with. Little handy, priority order. Contact the supervisors for the beacon and Class 4 weapons R&D, and notify all Legion commanders. Leave enough of your fleets at the front to curb the Seaborn and assist the Hunters. The rest should withdraw in order and return to the city. Sea Patrol will seize the beacon tower right away. We have our gratitude for informing us, Doctor. I know I owe the two of you an explanation for how I have deployed the Abyssal Hunters. We don't hold you accountable on a tactical level. You know their prowess against the Seaborn better than us. I can only say this. Your powers of observation would not have missed the scales on Gladia's neck. We can assume the Hunters will have no trouble seeing this assignment through. But what was your guarantee that they would be spared from mutating while in the nest? The word of Advisor Blandus and nothing more? Advisor Blandus' statement at the tribunal served to strengthen Millenarium's confidence in the Abyssal Hunters. I confess, though, it failed to even ease my mind. I take it the Hunters still weigh heavily on your thoughts. Aegir never truly wound down the Abyssal Hunter project following the strike on the Firstborn. I've not been involved, but my countrymen have every right to interrogate me for my awareness of it alone. For a short time after the Firstborn died, the project went through major upheavals. Anomalies plagued their experiments, and the Church grew only more fixated on the Hunters. This suggests there are urgent hidden truths about the Hunters yet to be found. Yet it also proves that the project can no longer run publicly. To this day, it still operates in secret, but even now, Aegir has only 3 Hunters, including Gladiia. No, 4. For how constantly we iterate on our technology, we have never succeeded in making another Abyssal Hunter. No matter how stable the subject's signs and psychological indicators are, they lose their reason the moment they awaken, immediately corrupting into Seaborn. They don't even make it out of the chamber, let alone to the ocean proper. Abyssal Hunters are bound by blood. We forgot. What is this blood binding them? We don't know. We still don't know why Gladia's group have kept their reason intact. Sounds like they're your key to solving this. Yet you chose to send them to the front. Indeed. For Gladiia, Laurentina, Skadi, and all the participants, it was an irresponsible act. I was right. But the front lies at Millenarium now. We made it in time to cut off the Seaborn tide as it laps at dry land, but Millenarium is far from impregnable. If we fail to open the waterway now, it is only a matter of time before the city is lost. The Seaborn have organized to seize that waterway by the throat. Storming them head-on will invite a large-scale counterattack, at which point I fear none will survive. Is risking the Hunters unnecessary cost here? The Hunters may well give their lives. They may well transform, but right now, they are our greatest hope. Gladiia has always been skeptical of the waterway program's feasibility. It was for that exact reason that she did not hesitate to serve as a link in its chain. Your doubts and struggles may differ, but all roads lead to the same place in the end. That seems to be an unspoken, yet shared understanding among the Aegir. One not without its sorrows. Upon the bricks of the Suffon Theatrum entrance, the architect Martus left this maxim: there is no justice here, only the path ahead. In later generations, some criticized Martis for being overly fixated on material value, squandering his energy on comparing worth against worth. But ultimately, all that mattered to him was Aegir's path forward. Justice was merely a value cherished by the masses, and he'd preferred to apply his thought elsewhere. Perhaps Gladiia and I have been acting on his philosophy without realizing it. Dr. Calcit, everything you have said rings all too true. I am bound in the end to carry Aegir's arrogance with me, and nothing will change that. I would like to amend that wording. Arrogance as a word seems insufficient to describe Aegir. You respect equally the humanity of every citizen, to realize each individual's worth as the guiding star for your entire society's development. Yet at the same time, you are capable of making the cruelest judgments and calmly accepting them for the sake of Aegir's survival as a whole. Calmly, you say? We Aegir are not cold-blooded. Whenever you would feel wrath, our own hearts are far from unstirring. These are feelings I had wished to convey to Gladiia once upon a time, but I realized I had no right. Every decision I made for her I based in pure rationality. How natural, then, that I lost that right. How dare I ask for an emotional pardon? The same is true, even now. And so, calmly, I accept my own judgment.
The designated individual has been contacted. Advisor Blandis did not pick up.
Dr. Calcit, Doctor, I'm deeply sorry I could not give you an appropriate answer, but right now I ask that you permit me to carry out my duty.
Okay.
No need to make
Okay,
a
this
scene.
one's a little hard because this has over here, but you basically, if you clear this out, I think we'll be okay.
Those things creeping on the floor, I remember seeing this back in Iberia.
Nether Sea Brand
Is what the Iberians call it. One of the ways the Seaborn propagate themselves. Remember to use your little handy to clean it swiftly. The little handy we've been issued this time is equipped with drilling tools, so it can also be used to destroy Seaborn-created excrescent carapaces if required.
Okay.
Cover me.
These things are really tough. So... Okay. Alright, so we took care of them. We've got this way down here, so we're good in terms of covering. We'll do it this way,
Anything
though.
outside the plan? I'll judge for myself.
Alright. I think I was able to successfully put somebody up there, like a caster, that could take them out.
Let me create a diversion.
Because, like, they wander around, but... Like here, I could do this.
Trust in me.
It's not going to do a whole lot yet.
Let's begin.
Oh no, wrong Texas. I did not mean that one. I meant the other one, but that's okay.
I'm prepared. Your lives. Now ignite.
They'll be sleeping. And what purpose do you think your sacrifice will serve?
For them, the bell tolls.
Oh my. Oh my. This is the Texas that I wanted. Okay.
Bad luck. You ran
Okay, we'll pull her. Alright, what if we do this?
With me.
We'll plot monster here. we're gonna pull her.
Spring breeze, timely rain. Now we sow the grain.
Okay. Okay. We got one. Okay, we need to get Taxus out here.
I wasn't
Maybe.
supposed to act.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Rain clouds for glue.
24.
Wow. Looks awfully dangerous. You call me out
Okay,
for
I can
this?
pull her because of the fact that
I'll be careful. The Revenant's battling again.
okay, well,
Son
hold
of
on.
a gun's got filthy mouth.
Okay. That's it. That was it. Okay. So, I didn't even really need Calcit and Monster. Alright, cool. Is what it is. I'm alright with that. Ah, awake. I've taken care of your wounds. You'll find 2 doses of stimulant beside you to bring you back to your senses. Shall I administer, or would you prefer the little handy? Fine, do it yourself. Very practiced motions. It seems you've recuperated well. Now, useless as I know it is, I do need to tell you this. You cannot keep experimenting on yourself, or you'll have to cover your eyes as well to avoid looking like you've been tortured. The mask won't be enough, at least. My wardrobe has nothing to do with my modifications. True, you've always looked that way. We've all got shivers as you entered the classroom and sat your gloomy self down. All this time, we've known each other, and you barely even shown me your face. Blandis, given you started cracking jokes, I take it the results are less than awful. Now, that's tricky to say. The emotional ride I've been through felt like being seated next to Secunda as she sailed a patrol ship with both eyes shut. That is to say, utter madness. First of all, I noticed a baffling effect in your auto-adaptive junction. Your body's reaction is bizarre. When the Seaborn genes exert their abnormal dominance, your anti-Seaborn rejection response doesn't intensify. No, it actually lightens somewhat. Which means my transformation is getting faster. No, quite the opposite. It was right as I was canceling the surgery that I observed a curious phenomenon. Once your rejection ebbed, your Seaborn genetics slowed down their influence. As if, to be crude, your body and the Seaborn genes had reached some sort of understanding. This is certainly worth further study. But for now, I need to know one thing. Will this impact the Hunters in their upcoming battle? Slaying the Firstborn will be our single most important operation since we were created. At this point, I will allow no freak accidents. I've observed no negative effects so far. I'll be setting up a few more risk assessments before you head out. That said, if we're going to figure out what's underpinning this phenomenon, then you'd best come back alive so I have something to study at all. I'll be honest, I'm anxious. We've never waged a war on this scale before. We're marching every single Abyssal Hunter, plus 3 whole standing legions, off into a single trench. If not with a war like this, how would we ever kill their Genesisoic, their source, their god? Do you truly believe we can polish off the Seaborn just like that, once and for all? You've worked with us for over a decade, and you still have your doubts about the Hunter Project. Do you want the truth? The truth is, I should have vetoed this project at the audit stage, a roadmap to warping evolution, predicated on sacrificing our own people's humanity. If not for you, I wouldn't have entertained its feasibility, let alone poured 10 years of my own blood and sweat into it. But it's a sunk cost now. The more I doubt it, the more crucial it is for me to be its core member, to steer it with my own 2 hands. Yet I can't shake the thought of how many monsters this lab's created. the majority of which were put down by your own two hands, Ulpianus. Yes. Their deaths don't even qualify as sacrifices to you, do they? A homeland ravaged by Seaborn will only wrest away even more Aegir lives. We've had this debate 1,000 times. We don't need another before I leave. Get the risk assessments going. Furthermore, suspend all ongoing hunter modification trials. Come again? With no hunters present, it would be difficult to deal with any aberrant results. Aberrant? I'll be honest, you've been the director of the Abyssal Hunter project for its entire lifespan, and even you can't be fully confident in it, can you? That's the real reason you chose to be the first subject. Can this campaign put the Seaborn crisis to rest? Yes or no? Even you can't be sure. Blandis. No, I'll be honest, I've spent each and every day hoping more than anyone that this will end in victory. Maybe when you sail back, safe and sound, the project will have no more reason to exist. Think, we could even pick up where we left off on all our old research. You barely even remember, do you? Well, I ran into our old teacher at the council. He asked about that dream of ours. The evolution of Aegir cells. It made for no particular grand abstract, but glimpsing the whole course we've run from microscopic cross-section. That's a beautiful pursuit, and no one can tell me otherwise. From our ancestors swaying their limbs in the rivers eons ago, to us here and now as we debate science and ideals, there's a flow to it all, an order of events. It's not too late for us to witness, is it? You finally came, Ulpianus. You wouldn't even resort to flaunting your wretched sense of humor as a plea. Wretched sense of humor. Secunda would agree with you. You know, she's really grown to resemble you over the years. I fear we'll have another you on our hands someday. Along with the countless other yous, born by or against their will, throwing themselves into the fight against the Seaborn, and perishing in combat until the shores are soaked in Aegir's blood. It grieves me how she's changed. Changes in you, though, I can barely begin to comprehend. Stop what you're doing right now and explain your game to me. Blandis, cultist to the deep. What? Am I missing something? You're late. I've hardly anything for you to stop now. Just a moment ago, my holochart received a signal from Nest 37. The final beacon is activated, and the Class 4 weapons are warming up. You're not putting this one down, I'll be honest. And if you hope to learn what the Church is planning, I can't help you. They were tripping over themselves to protect me out of their own wishful thinking, and then one day they just went and changed their minds. If not for their actions, I know I might have been caught long ago. No, though. I'd never counted myself among their members. I can't even make heads or tails of their warped doctrine. Still, if you're asking what drove me to do all this, I would love to bend your ear. Excellent. Then I won't need to resort to violence. Violence. Still taking that as your first impulse. If it weren't for the embarrassing situation you've put yourself in, I'm sure the Institute of Development Planning would love to have a chat with you. Want to know something? It took only moments after the failed campaign for them to declare you all dead. Then, soon enough, the Institute came down to me with an invitation to restart the Hunter Project. You haven't seen the casualty report from that campaign yet, have you? You should have a read. Abyssal Hunters, Legionnaires, their sacrifices, a tragedy, yet the ending a farce. Violent resistance was always a dead end. The project was dead in the water from the start. Granted, Aegir's never used crude platitudes or propaganda to encourage such sacrifice. Every one of the project's subjects was given the freedom to make an informed decision. But using the sacrifice of our citizens as a market standard, well, that makes the very question of free choice much ado about nothing. Once an Aegir's worth lay in all that they had built up and created during their life, and now, Our very lives, even our deaths, are price-tagged. I'll record your words even though it's pointless. Blandus, I expected your suspicion and dissent to drive you to search deeper, not reduce you to the cowardly, self-deceiving man you are now. Whether out of passion or mourning, it's still the same brand of rhetoric spouted by every fallen claiming to foresee the fall of Aegir itself. Assigning a character to a nation, anthropomorphizing it to critique its values, even as a method of inflating one's ego, it's shoddy at best. But even as you weep over the senseless sacrifice, have you never imagined how many lives your destruction of the waterway program will take? Destruction? No, Ulpianus. I'm trying to open up a true path for us. What have you done? Now, Ulpianus, be patient. I have nothing to hide. Blandus brushes past Ulpianus and stops before the holochart. With his back to his old friend, he passes a finger over the sea of glowing dots and points to a flashing spot in the top right corner. See that? That's where the hunters are now. They activated the last beacon and are probably caught in a deadly struggle. But they aren't in any danger. Any true danger, that is. The moment they can fight no more, that's when the weapons kick in. The Seaborn will cease fighting. Every last one thronging one of them will fall asleep. Keep going. If you remember your auto-adaptive junction tech, you'll have no trouble understanding what I tell you next. That old surgical accident I had. Well, you were right. It was absolutely worth the further study. The junction brought about a homeostasis in you on the microscopic level. Your body no longer rejected the Seaborn genes, and they had miraculously stopped overtaking you. It may have been by chance, but in no time at all, I was able to reproduce your phenomenon on the macro scale. To an extent, I could delete the hostility Seaborn bore towards humankind. And before Gladiia's unit left for Nest 37 during their surgery, I took the opportunity to reproduce that accident of yours. You wanted to recreate in the Hunters an accident with no proven explanation, no clear effects, and not even a trace of actual rigorous verification? Is that what that said? Yeah. No. What happened in your body has long since graduated from freak accident. While you were missing, I spent every waking moment on the research. I trusted you Hunters were still alive, trusted you would come back, and that I could help you be free of that blasted fate of yours. But you refused to restart the Abyssal Hunter project. How did you... Were you experimenting on yourself? No wonder your body stinks of miasma. My physical condition doesn't hold a candle to yours, naturally. I haven't much longer now. I can practically feel each second of my life slipping away. But it was worth it. I've done all I needed to. Tell me, Ulpianus, what the Hunters were born to be a solution, not a tool. That the Hunters were born to be a solution, not a tool, not a weapon, not a consumable destined to be tossed aside. They were. Good. And the project was a failure, but the Hunters still have a chance to fulfill their calling, yet not through senseless slaughter and sacrifice. You'll live to show your worth, not die to give Aegir a few more final gasps. The Abyssal Hunters will be the start of a revised relationship between humanity and the Seaborn. If I can have them mistake humankind as their own, then maybe I can get the many to see Aegir as a neighbor. And you had your eyes on the Waterway program all along. More precisely, the Waterway program came to me first. Clementia reached out to me at practically the same time as the Institute. She let me in on both the game plan for the Waterway program and the research project for the Class 4 weapon array. Weapons rooted in biotech like them can impact Seaborn behavior at large. The theory grounding them has a natural affinity with the auto-adaptive junctions. By then, I had already gathered the data I needed to perfect the junction tech, to the point that it was no longer limited to human subjects anymore. So I made a tiny little tweak to the Class 4s. The instant they activate, we can close the book on our fight with the Seaborn. The Abyssal Hunters, the Class 4s, it will all transcend the boundary of species. It'll become a path, a bridge. You can't make this up. 2 centuries of constant war between Aegir and Seaborn. And one little trick is likely all it takes to stop it. Maybe the severity of this weapon, of this war, was a fiction from the very beginning. Now, I mean no offense to our predecessors, but at least we still have the power to choose a different path. Not that I'll get to see it. The rest is out of my hands. At least I was lucky enough, in the end, to see you at the Suffon Theatrum. You're the one who started the Hunter Project. You know your way around. Self-adaptive junctions. You've been through all this. Only you, Ulpianus. Only you can keep the work going. Is that why you were so blithely waiting for my arrival? To entrust your work to me before you die? It's my turn to invite you. Aegir and Seaborn have a chance at achieving true symbiosis. Perhaps that's a future you wouldn't mind bearing witness to? I refuse. I did expect that, but still, that was a little too blunt. I'll be honest, this is the control room where I'll die. But, Blandis, even if your death is certain, you must know you have no right to go regretting anything. Fighting anything. There was a time not so long ago when we ventured to make sense of the meaning of our existence by studying how our own Aegirian cells had evolved. But you've ruined everything you had with your own hands, all for one wild flight of fancy. The Seaborn obnoxious scourge upon the ocean. There is no point in doubting that. They're beings full of unknowns, yet you believe in symbiosis with them, as if they are your friends. Blandis, that is the same arrogance the Aegir had in assuming victory was inevitable. No, this is 100 times over. Are you even aware of what you're thinking? Can you describe this hopeful vision you see in your fantasies with symbiosis? Are the Seaborn to be magical seafloor fairies spoken of in the children's stories, or will they be our beloved household pets? Will Gladiia debate philosophy with them? Will Skadi take tea time with them? Will Laurentina be dancing with them? You can't paint even a single proper picture, can you? Your own proven record as the scientist you were, thrown away. When I see you now, Blandis, I can only laugh. I've never heard you say so much in one breath, Ulpianus. You mean to tell me you despair, yes? The only one who ever despaired was you. So you have no right to go regretting anything, fighting anything. Not in front of me. Every fallen must be sentenced, and their every corpse should be hung from the dry reefs. Is it even in you to sentence me? The campaign to slay the Firstborn was full of questionable points, and you stand as the greatest suspect. Everything you've done now puts you at odds with Aegir. This nation has rejected you, and so I have no choice but to take you on your noble work. The man I knew would never have given this conman's rhetoric. I'm simply stating the facts. Then in this moment, the last I will ever spend as an Aegir, I sentence you. Blandis says nothing back. Perhaps he's lost the energy, or given up on retorting. This dialogue of monologues has dragged on long enough, to the point it's begun to wear on him. The golden hollow chart ripples before him. Too bright, he thinks, and so he closes his eyes. From somewhere, communication intrudes and shatters their brief silence. With it, he hears the shrill grinding of his old friend's anchor being dragged across the floor. But only one thought makes it in time. He couldn't even give the hunters a welcome home hug.
A battle without an explosion or cheering makes me feel
so Blandis was in on it the whole time.
A drink? Maybe next time.
The interaction with the other cultists, though, that appeared during the attempted operation, the beginning of the operation on the other three, that was strange for the way he reacted. It's almost like, of course, played the part, but it just didn't seem right. I don't know. But let's do story -2 to wrap this up. Senor Ulpianus? You. Phew. So it is you.
Okay, we met once at Grand Pharaoh. Actually, it was you who approached me, though I never learned your name until after I got here. Please, you're not supposed to be here. It's control center for the beacon tower. That man on the floor, did you do that?
It's the most fitting end for one who fell.
What did he do?
None of your business, young one. Leave this place for your own safety.
The nest beacons have all been activated. The sabotage weapons are warming up. How else can I warn the hunters? Is Laurentina's group in danger? Did this man do it? Is that why you... You won't tell me. You don't trust me. Well, I don't trust you either, honestly. You never introduce yourself, and seeing all this, it's really only right to suspect you. But they're your friends. You're a hunter too. I think I know a little bit about your tales together. He did his dirty work on them before they left. They're still caught in the seaborne tide for now. I'm not entirely certain what's going to happen, but the danger is definite. If they went to plant the beacon and are still in the nest, maybe we could send their beacon a signal from this tower to warn them. I was helping out earlier. I know roughly how the basic controls work. Then do it. Okay. So now Jordy's helping him. Well, it's much more complex in practice, but I can say this tower seems to operate on a very similar framework to a lighthouse's control system. As far as I'm aware, Briogan passed through this city and aided the tower reconstruction effort. The technician mentioned that the tower will automatically navigate the weapons once every beacon is active, and all other controls will be locked out by the program. So if we want to send a signal to one of these beacons, let me see. Just as I feared, it's impossible to resume control. Do you have any way to circumvent the lockdown? If Briogan was involved in the reconstruction, then maybe, just maybe, I have a very stupid plan. My entire time here in Miliarium, I've been trying to get to understand the man Briogan was. He had a habit of writing things down, always noting his thoughts, his suspicions, etc. He kept it up even on dry land. Was it so he wouldn't forget things? I think I could try temporarily shutting down the main control panel's data decomposition system like this. Before, you were bringing up my history. You called me Briogan's descendant, but just from looking at his images, you could tell I don't resemble the genius architect one bit. My parents were just Aegirs, rooted to the land. There are plenty of us across Iberia and the other terrestrial countries. Strictly speaking, we don't even count as... So what? It used to trouble me, but recently I've been learning to let myself get over it, to not think so hard about it. It's just, you were the first to ever mention that to me, so I wanted to be sure. Why did you think I was... True, I did miss the mark, but I never engage in baseless speculation. There is more of a bond between you than you think. A bond? The profound silence ruined Iberia. The lighthouses fell dark along the coast, and doubt and suspicion grew in their shadow. Briogan was forced to flee the splendor he himself had designed. Grand Pharaoh was one place he sheltered while on the run. The research notes your parents left you are undoubtedly connected to him. They were people he knew he could entrust his life's work to. Look at what you're doing now, young one. You may not be his descendant by blood, but you have most certainly inherited a portion of his wisdom. Miliarium is the first Aegirian city you visited, and coincidentally the last Briogan stopped at before leaving the country entirely. His trail covers the entire seabed, and everywhere he went, he visited those of great repute to share his thoughts on dry land, his conjectures on Terra's future. He had hoped someone would head for the continent with him, so that one day land and sea might stand against crisis together, seek new possibilities together. Many admired him for his talent, but perhaps his suggestions were too far ahead of his time, for in the end hardly anyone responded to his invitation. In Miliarium, he even volunteered to take part in this tower's reconstruction, in exchange for an audience with the then consul. And, do you need to ask?
He was rejected. But as the work finished, he made the final decision to wrap up his winding tour and officially depart for the faraway soils, even if his time on the road had gained him practically no support. Think over what you've done. You left the town you knew and came to this alien place they call your home. That, too, took incredible courage. In this respect, you and Breogan are not dissimilar. Conversely, if all you'd shared was just blood, then that would have been something to be ashamed of. I do not usually play psychological counselor. Jordi Fontanarosa. I think, really, that did it. At the very least, signaling a single beacon shouldn't be an issue. Let's see. Nest 37. I hope Laurentina and her friends notice. Actually, Senora Ulpianus, is it just me or is the air getting stuffy? My comms just picked up a faint gravitational wave. What a strange feeling. Seeing the ripples in space-time with my own eyes. Just like in the manual, seems the beacon's already active. According to Clementia, this beacon going live should mean the Class 4 weapon array will automatically come online. We should head back the way we came immediately. And here I was thinking we'd stay behind and enjoy our front row seats. What's so fun about watching cannons fire? Oh, weren't we supposed to have something rather different in store? I thought we'd see the Seaborn silently popping all at once across the entire stretch. How poetic, how fitting, when you consider all the little bastards' wrongs, no? Though Class 4 weaponry may not affect us, pointless dithering will only invite more variables. Fine. Off we go then. A soft murmur reaches Specter's ear. When she turns to look, she meets with an eye. More accurately, a nucleus, leaping to and fro. The flagella of the Seaborn sticks to her cheek, soft as a kiss. Specter sees the nucleus pulsing in a clear rhythm, blending with her own heartbeat. Shark! Don't attack yet, Skadi. It went straight past us. Doesn't strike me that we spooked it. More like something pulled it away. The beacon. Captain? The gravitational waves coming from this thing aren't supposed to be so irregular, are they? Skadi, behind you! Move! Cheerily stirs? Creased skin excitedly shudders. It's so weird the way they're describing these. The currents reverse. The tide sweeping the Seaborn surges back into the nest. The sound of beating membranous wings, of compressing and unfolding, of clamoring mouthparts, of roaring streams. The whole space reverberates with layer upon layer of cries of pure elation. The beacon's been completely drowned out. The eggs and newborns are multiplying rapidly. Clementia said all formless newborns would enter straight into necrosis, and the mature individuals would flee from the area. While the fungal mat, the vegetation, the whole nest would decay, starting from the environment. But clearly we're not seeing much of a collective necrosis here, are we? If anything, I'd say they're full of life. Pull back! Gladiia turns the instant she barks the order, her lance piercing the Seaborn ahead as ruptured tissues burst about like blood. Ever since that little bastard touched my face, I've been feeling sleepy somehow. Very strange. It's been so long since I felt this way. I thought it was just me. This shouldn't be. Combat only sharpens an Abyssal Hunter's lucidity. Blandis? You mean the auto-adaptive junction surgery? We discovered an anomaly and Blandis certainly treated us, but he also tampered with the procedure. Yet whether coincidence or not, the Church's attack cleared our suspicions of him. This was my mistake. But he's the advisor. Why would he? If we want answers, we must make it back to the city. Specter skips ahead at the vanguard, her dance as graceful as ever. With but a twirl, a high RPM saw blade leaves the Seaborn ahead carved in two. The beasts have noticed us and yet show hardly any will to attack. Captain, Shark, have you noticed the water flowing slower? Get a hold of yourself, Skadi. No, wait. She's right. These animals are secreting something. Finally, the tide receding, the nest temporarily bears the truth of its transformation. Seaborn living and dead fall into every ravine in the seabed. The nest's borders have begun to bleach, chitin coming together into a thick crust. Something has provided them immense nutrition. The whole nest is forming a carapace and spurring every life within to evolve faster. A shell. If we take the Iberian's so-called Nethersea brand as the roadmap for the organism's explanation, then this shell is the final act of fueling before it begins. Without warning, the beacon pulsed irregular gravitational waves. Right afterward, the seaborn swarm began to nest around it. Either this or some elusive aberration in the weapons themselves, or someone in the city is trying to remotely control the beacon to transmit information. Or possibly both. Whatever Blandis did to us during that surgery has dulled our senses. Consider the hunt on. Time is of the essence. Get out of here! So whatever Geordie did to send them a signal also kind of caused some issue, it seems. Your cheeks are flushed and your clothes are soaked through with sweat. I'm not nervous. No. You're accustomed to dry, arid land. You're more sensitive to dampness than an average Aegir. The humidity is racking you. Hold on. Look at the chart! Densely packed biosignatures from right above us? It's the dome above the tower. The Seaborn are seeping into the city through there. No, but weren't there 2 legions out there keeping them at bay? Plus the hunters. Even if some from the other nests slipped around the perimeter, Millenarium still has countless sensor units across the dome, and all sorts of complex defenses. How could the Seaborn get into the city without a sound? Did this tower draw them in? But why? My guess is someone showed them the path. Blandis, had it ever dawned on you that your folly would lead to such disaster? Ulpianus is pensive. He does not turn to look at the culprit of all this lying motionless on the floor. He stares closely at the holographic sea chart. Dots representing the Seaborn swarm converge right on Millenarium's coordinates. They shine like stars. Well, we are nearing the end. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Let's go ahead and collect our stuff. First and foremost, let's get underflow.
Doctor, I'm glad to meet you on land. We're fighting the same war, and that is why I stand before you now.
Like her gun. Collect all this stuff here. So like I said, we have 7, 8, 9, and we have the final little thing for afterwards. Ooh, we've got enough. Let's go ahead and collect Manticore's costume here. Collect that for her. Come on. All right, so we got that out of there. And now I can start collecting some of this stuff as well. Okay. So I've got a few more things that I want to get out of here yet. And of course, I've got to go through and finish the last couple things. And so we'll work on that tomorrow. Which...
Ciao, Doctor.
That is no big deal. We'll go ahead and we'll get that completed. But I'll probably farm the other stages during the day while I'm at work.
May I use my own office chair?
And then by the time I get home, I'll come back and be able to
finish the last little bit with you guys.
I very much
So,
appreciate the interior
let me wrap up here,
of this room.
and we
It is
will
conducive to
pick up with
sound
this
propagation.
I hope
in
I can
the
get
final
a nice
part next.
big bathtub.
All right, so with that being finished there, we have only a little bit left with this story, and it's pretty cool. We technically have 3 stages. There's 2 more that it's kind of hard to explain how it works. It's really strange. We get basically the next stage is the last one before the boss fight. Stage 8 is going to be the boss. And then stage 9 is kind of like a enemy siege. It's really, really neat how they organized it with this particular event. But the story took a very crazy turn there, because while we prepared for the deployment of the beacons to launch this class 4 weaponry to try and what was believed to be the next help, or rather the final step in preparing everything for the final part of the waterway program, getting rid of the Seaborn and preventing them from stopping it, it was sabotaged. And it was sabotaged in a way that we didn't expect. And I mean, maybe other people saw it coming, that it was Blandis' involvement, but I mean, I didn't expect him to be part of the cult. Maybe some sabotage with the Hunters, but not part of the cult, the Church of the Deep or whatever. So that was a little odd, especially given the interaction with the 2 that snuck into the lab. So that was a bit strange. But Ulpianus coming in and confirming it, getting the explanation and everything, that was incredible. And Ulpianus now making his move a little bit more, Doctor being involved, Doctor now kind of confronting the Consul with Calcit. Those were some interesting things that happened as well. So we're hitting that final part. We're at that climactic point where everything is finally hitting the head. And it's going to speed to the finish line next time. So with that being said, guys, thank you for sitting through my poor attempts tonight at trying to talk and read properly. I was doing good a little bit at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, like, I divulged into horrible concentration, and I was distracted by some things. So that's on me, but I was struggling to read properly and struggling to pay attention to some things. So it was just a bad night for my comprehension and speaking and reading capabilities. So I wasn't doing too well. I apologize, and hopefully we'll do better in the next one. So with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to hang out here on the channel and watch my videos. You guys are always awesome. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Please make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. That's going to help me to continue to grow and bring you more cool content like this. And with that being said, I will see you guys next time.